Good morning, welcome back. This is your significant figures lesson, examples more specifically, and the condensed version. So Sig Fig, significant figures are also called Sig Figs. Examples, condensed version. Here we go. I'm going to throw some numbers at you. I'm going to do a few numbers kind of impromptu, and then I'll do a few from the page that you're going to finish for today. So you're going to do 20 practice questions, but we'll do a few together also. Okay. Your question is, how many sig figs? How many sig figs? That's really blurry. Good. Okay. How many sig figs? And here we're just counting how many sig figs are in the number. How many place values can we confidently measure with this tool? Okay. 2 is significant, 3 is significant. 23 has 2 sig figs. You do not have to write sig figs. Well, let's keep it rolling. Same thing, similar idea here. We could measure this 2, we could measure this 3, and that's all the confidence this tool can give us. These are ending zeros. There's no trailing decimal. There's no decimal written there. These zeros are placeholders. They tell us how big this is. 23 is different from 2,300. This is a big number, this is a smaller number, but these zeros, that tool couldn't measure. That also has 2 sig figs. Okay. 1,402. This has a 0. Zeros are your wild card, because you know that 1, 2, and 4 are significant. Right, like, if we bother to write those, we definitely know them. The 0 is your question mark. That's a middle 0 that is always significant, because we could see the hundreds place, we could see the ones place. We are totally confident in the place value in between, that tens place. This one has 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 sig figs. Okay, how about this one? Well, okay, it's still the zeros that are your confusing question region. These zeros come at the beginning of the number. I can even put another one here. And they're not significant because they're at the beginning of the number. They show us that this is a small thing. This would be different than if we wrote 94 or 9,400 or whatever. These zeros show us that this is a small measurement, but they don't give us any confidence about the actual measurement itself. This one has 2 sig figs. A number like, I keep thinking 4. Okay, there we go. Let's do that number. Here you have a trailing decimal, not to be confused with a leading decimal. If your decimal is in the front of your number, it doesn't contribute to significance, because beginning zeros are never significant. Here your decimal's at the end. That 0 is showing both magnitude, how big it is, 780, and also with that decimal, we're saying we could measure exactly, it is exactly 180. No more, no less. This has 3 sig figs. And let's just take that one step further. Let's say we measured that same thing with a different tool. That's a decimal. These are ending zeros. They're at the end of the number. There is a decimal involved. this tool here could see all the way out to the, tenths, hundredths, thousandths place. This is exactly 780 down. We are super confident. And in fact, we are confident in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 place values. This has 6 sig figs. Okay. Let's do a few from the PDF for today. Although we've kind of given you a bunch of examples that are really relevant. We're going to do 4 altogether. We're going to do 1, 2, 3, and 19. Very good. Okay, number 1 is this. How many sig figs does this number have? All of those are sig figs. We can see 1, 2, 3, 4. We can see 4 place values with confidence. This has 4 sig figs. Okay. Number 2 says, wow, I almost gave you that example above. These are leading zeros, beginning zeros. There's decimal, but we don't care. They're beginning zeros. They're never significant. Beginning zeros are never significant. This only has 2 sig figs. I'll underline them. These are significant. All 4 of these are significant. Number 3 gives you this number. And you're kind of getting yourself in the habit of, does it have a trailing decimal? In number 3, no, it does not. There is no trailing decimal. 8 is significant. 9 is significant. There's no trailing 0 here. This has 2 sig figs. And last but not least, we'll do number 19. And number 19 says this number. This number is a little tricky because it has this times 10 to the something. In these 2 weeks of math, we will get into and conquer this. We haven't done it yet, so for today, just completely ignore that. And don't totally ignore, because if you've seen this before, you might remember that this means this is a really small number. And all of the zeros that you would add to indicate that this is a really small number, all of those zeros are not significant. Therefore, this is a placeholder. It tells you how big or how small it is, but it doesn't affect your level of confidence of the actual measurement. So for here, whatever. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4 place values that you're totally confident in. That has 4 sig figs. Okay, you're going to try the other 16. In the other video I gave you this one, so I'll give you this one also. Number 8, just as another, this is scientific notation. That times 10 to the 4 tells you this is big. 3.4 tells you there are 2 place values you can confidently measure. This has 2 sig figs. Okay, you're going to try the other 15 on the PDF on your own. Let me know your questions and enjoy.